All right, let's dive right into this. Football honestly wasn't designed to be a business. It started out as a working-class game, played in muddy fields. There were no owners, no TV deals, no billionaires sitting in skyboxes. So how in the world did a sport played with a $5 ball turn into the planet's single biggest entertainment empire? Today we are following the money. All of it. We're going to break down the 5 massive revenue engines driving the sport. We'll look at how local community clubs quietly morphed into massive global corporations. And by the end of this, we are going to answer the ultimate underlying question: who actually owns world football?
$1 trillion. Seriously, take a second to let that number sink in. That is more money than the entire economic output of countries like Switzerland or the Netherlands. And in 2025, that figure represents the rough size of the global football economy. We're not just talking about your weekend ticket sales here. We are talking about broadcast deals that are worth more than some nations' entire GDP. We're talking about transfer fees that move faster than the stock market. And we're talking about one hidden number that is literally bigger than all the others combined.
So where is all this cash coming from? Well, football's money is generated by 5 primary engines. Engine number 1 is broadcast rights. This is the big one that most fans know about, and it is absolutely enormous. Why? Because live football is basically the last thing on earth that people refuse to watch later. There are no spoilers, there's no pausing. In a world where absolutely everything is on demand, live football is appointment television, and broadcasters will pay almost anything to own it.
$16.7 billion. That is the value of just the English Premier League's broadcast rights for the 2025 to 2029 cycle. Break that down, and it's about $4.8 billion every single year, just for the right to put those matches on screens. To put that massive number into perspective, that one single league's TV deal completely dwarfs Spain's La Liga, Germany's Bundesliga, and Italy's Serie A combined.
Moving on to Engine 2, the transfer market. Think of this as football's very own stock exchange, a place where human talent is bought and sold for completely life-changing sums of money. You see, clubs don't just buy players to win matches anymore. The model has changed. Now, they buy them young, develop them, and sell them for a massive profit. Football clubs are essentially operating like talent hedge funds right now, trading human assets to boost their corporate balance sheets. And the sheer scale of these trades is just staggering. The all-time world record still belongs to Neymar, with a mind-blowing €222 million paid to Paris Saint-Germain back in 2017. That single number was so large it triggered a chain reaction, inflating pretty much every transfer fee that came after it. Fast forward to the summer of 2025, and Premier League clubs alone dropped over £3 billion in a single transfer window. That's more than the other 4 major European leagues spent put together. Engine 3 is matchday. This is your tickets, the VIP hospitality, the stadium food, those $70 replica shirts. Historically, this was football's main source of income. Today, it's actually the smallest of the big revenue lines for the elite clubs. But, crucially, it is also the most reliable. This is where the deep, emotional connection of the fans gets turned into hard cash. Because a modern stadium isn't just a sports venue anymore. It's a 365-day-a-year shopping mall, it's a concert hall, and it's an immersive brand experience.
All right, Engine 4, digital and commercial. We're talking sponsorships, social media presence, content creation, and global merchandise. For the world's absolute richest clubs, this has become the single biggest source of income. The top 20 clubs on Earth pulled in more than $11.5 billion in revenue in 2025, and the largest slice of that pie came straight from commercial deals. A club like Real Madrid or Manchester United, they aren't just local sports teams anymore. They are global media brands with hundreds of millions of highly engaged followers.
And now we reach Engine 5, the number I promised you at the very beginning of this explainer, the hidden engine that almost nobody factors into their graphics, but is actually bigger than all the others combined. It is the real reason that when you add everything up, the entire ecosystem pushes all the way toward that $1 trillion mark. Are you ready for this?
$779 billion. That was the global betting handle on football alone in 2024. Not all sports combined, just football. That accounts for roughly half of every single sports bet placed on the entire planet. The sheer amount of money flowing through football betting basically rivals the entire rest of the football economy put together. It is the silent engine. Whenever we talk about the trillion-dollar football economy, this is the massive missing piece that is constantly feeding on the game.
So how exactly did we get here? Well, here is the fundamental structural shift that changed absolutely everything. Football clubs stopped being clubs, and they became massive global corporations. Think about it. 100 years ago, a club was just the local team, usually owned by a local businessman. Today, some of the most valuable clubs on earth are owned by Wall Street investment funds, international billionaires, and even entire nations.
Let's quickly break down the three financial forces that drove this total corporate takeover. First up, the stock market. You have clubs like Manchester United and Borussia Dortmund that are publicly traded. They answer to shareholders. They care about quarterly earnings, which means the primary goal completely shifts from just winning matches to generating financial returns. The second force is private equity, and the third is sovereign wealth. Let's look a little closer at those last two.
American private equity now basically treats football clubs as an asset class. They see them as undervalued global properties with a fiercely loyal customer base. When Chelsea was sold in 2022, the buyout led by Todd Boehly's consortium was worth nearly 3 billion euros. That's over $5 billion. You also see groups like Redbird taking over AC Milan for 1.2 billion euros. They sweep in, they introduce corporate boards, strict wage caps, and focus entirely on strategic value creation. But the next evolution of this private equity push is multi-club ownership. This is where one single company owns a portfolio of clubs spread across different countries. Take groups like City Football Group, backed by private equity giants like Silver Lake. They own teams across multiple continents. They turn these clubs into one giant, interconnected machine, effortlessly sharing players, data, and advanced scouting systems. It's no longer just about managing a team. It's about optimizing a diversified global asset.
The ultimate force, though, without a doubt, is sovereign wealth. We are talking about entire nations buying up teams. Qatar bought Paris Saint-Germain in 2011. Saudi Arabia's public investment fund bought Newcastle United in 2021. And why? Global soft power and prestige. Football is literally the most watched thing on earth, and owning a piece of it buys a level of influence that no traditional ad campaign ever could. Saudi Arabia will even host the World Cup in 2034. It's pure geopolitics, playing out right there on the pitch.
Okay, so that brings us to the future of football money. Because the game isn't standing still. There are three major technological frontiers that are already redefining how the sport operates and, more importantly, how it generates wealth. Frontier 1 is artificial intelligence. The smartest, most cutting-edge clubs no longer rely just on human scouts sitting in the rain watching a game. Algorithms are replacing them. These AI systems run across thousands of player profiles simultaneously to find undervalued talent before anyone else even notices them. AI is predicting injuries, modeling a player's future financial value, and even helping design on-pitch tactics. The best transfer decisions of the future won't be made by a manager's gut feeling. They're going to be made by a server. Frontier 2 is the major shift from speculative NFTs to real Web3 utility. A few years ago, it felt like every single club launched an NFT promising it was the future, and then, well, the get-rich-quick crypto bubble totally collapsed. But the underlying technology itself survived by changing shape. Clubs pivoted hard away from wild speculation and toward true utility. We're talking digital fan memberships, tokens that unlock actual, real-world experiences, and secure blockchain tickets that literally cannot be faked. Which leads us directly to Frontier 3, the fully monetized fan economy. The ultimate goal of integrating Web3 into football is turning passive, passionate viewers into active, paying participants. Imagine securely voting on minor club decisions or owning a verifiable digital piece of the matchday experience. Football, with its massive, hyper-engaged global audience, is the ultimate testing ground for this entirely new digital economy.
So we've traced the money. We've seen the 5 engines, the corporate takeovers, and the tech frontiers. Which brings us to the most uncomfortable question of all. Who actually owns and controls this trillion-dollar empire? When you step back, it's a surprisingly small web. It's a handful of sovereign wealth funds, a tight cluster of private equity firms, global media companies, and, of course, the massive gambling industry.
And what about the fans? The people who literally built the game? The ones who give it its noise, its color, and its meaning? Well, they mostly don't own anything. And this is the paradox of modern football. The fans are now just the product. Their lifelong passion is the underlying asset being monetized by those sovereign funds, the private equity bros, and the betting giants. A working-class sport became a trillion-dollar empire, and somewhere along the way, the supporters stopped being the owners and simply became the customers.
Look, this explainer is really just the big picture. It's the map of how we got here. But if you want the full story, I've broken every single piece of this down in a highly detailed 9-part series. We cover the crazy TV rights war, the transfer bubble, the sovereign fund takeover, and a whole lot more. It is all linked right below. So I want to know, who do you think really owns football? Hit subscribe, let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and I'll see you in the next explainer.